on this, the Free Talk. Hashtag fees must fall is trending in town. So far, a total number of 20 University of Zimbabwe students have been arrested. A number of them have paid admission of guilt fines and have been released. 2 have appeared in court and are denying the charges and have been released on free bail. Government and the University of Zimbabwe students have clashed over fees. Fees went up from an average 60,000 Zimbabwean dollars to 300,000 Zimbabwean dollars. At a time, government has said it has arrested inflation and prices of commodities are going down. Now the students say this is unfair, unjustified, and fees must fall. We're going to be discussing this and getting insights into why the students want fees to fall and who they want to take the bill. On this, the Free Talk, with me, your host as usual, Dara Blessed Mhlang. Now join me just after this break for more. Welcome back and thank you very much for joining us on this, the Free Talk, with me, your host, as usual, Dara. And we are in studio this evening to discuss the issue that has set everyone talking on social media, in the combis, everywhere. Fees must fall. Is this a justified call? What has triggered these calls? Now, before I take you to studio where we'll discuss with my guests the issues around fees must fall, we went to the University of Zimbabwe and had a conversation with students there. We asked them why they want fees to fall, who they want to pick the tab, and who they blame for this fight over fees that has been triggered at the University of Zimbabwe, and which they have called other universities to join in. Now, these are their voices. This is what they say. Let me take you over to what the students said before we get into studio to discuss this issue in detail.
My name is Takunda Chinoda, the SRC spokesperson. Yeah, okay. What has caused the demonstration today was as a result of yesterday's message where the University of Zimbabwe increased the fees by 600%, where the minimum fees is now 500,000. If you don't pay for your education, I don't know as for them, because we do rely on our parents, we do rely on our guardians, we do rely on our different scholarships. So if they cannot afford, it means that many students are going to have like a dropout. They're going to drop out.
Yeah, the main cause of the demonstration is about to raise my fees without notice.
The cause of our demonstration today is the an sense-making, unreasonable fee hike that has been approved by the government for university students, and we are not okay with it. Basically, that's it.
Cause of the demonstration, the fees. It was like I paid 52,000 last semester. Then takudzwa fees yawedzerwa about 3,000 and something, which is equivalent to 450 USD, of which as it's unheard of. Our parents, they can't even pay that. So people are really demonstrating because it's unheard of.
ichi chinhu ichi hachichazi chezikosu or zinasu. Everyone must unite and it as one family, as use it, not as zikosu or zinasu. Then we come together toita a peaceful demonstration. Ndo iri kudiwa apa, ndo iri kudiwa kugadzirisa everything. Kwete kuti hey, no, this is a zikosu thing, this is a zinasu thing. Akuna zvakadaro, tese tikufana kubatana tomacha as a whole. Touya tese tomira pano kana tichidemonstrate iri peacefully. Kwete kuti zikosu or zinasu. Apana zikosu kana zinasu apa. Ndo mashoko angu.
The unnecessary increasing of the fees at Use It. You know, people are not agreeing with the current increase because we're learning at a government institute. We cannot be paying more than the amount that other institutes are paying and the private institutes. So it doesn't make sense. And we don't know how the government approved such an increase because it makes no sense for a student to be paying 487,000 at a TGS when a parent is getting 120,000. And we have tax and we have other expenses that are at home, and we're not the only kids in our family, so it doesn't make sense.
Taita demonstration nekuda kweschool fees yakaraiza. Ini ndisemwana wechikoroka ndiri kuzvibhadhara school fees ndega. And I can't afford kubhadhara such amount. It's too much. Just imagine mubereki wangu inini kana dzimweni ini kwandinoshanda ndinge ndichitambira RTGS. And RTGS rachona is less than mari yachona yavatipo kuti yavari kuti ndo school fees yedu. So inini semwana wechikoro and ndakamira mamwe mastudents angu handikwanisi uye hatikwanisi kuti tibhadhare mari yakawandisa kudaro. And akanchikumbira kuti chinge chiri chichemo kuti vawanewo zvokuita. Kunesu vanherera dzakaita sesu dziri kutokwangwaya tiri kutotsvara pasi unge huku kuti tikwanise kunge tichiuya kuno chikoro. Mukatonditarisa pano kunoona taomira kudai panoka zvinhu zvakatotiomira zvinotimirira zvakanaka. Kutodemonstrata kudai kutoshayiwa kuti tikupererwa nemazana.
Yeah, okay, the skyrocketing of the unnecessary skyrocketing of used school fees has forced us to demonstrate.
Ndonzwa kurwadziwa, mwoyo wangu kurwadza. Une shungu pamoyo. Ndokunauridza mhere izvozvi. Ndoda kuti zvinhu zvachina zvinondimira zvakanaka ndikangofunga kuti school fees hazviperi zvakanaka. Kumusoro ikoko kuadmin uko ndoko wakatiresvera zvinhu ndakumbirawo nemwoyo waMwari. Mukada kuzvitarisa manje isu sevana vechikoro next semester hariperi tenge tisingachakwanisi kunge tichiuya kuchikoro tisina kubhadhara school fees. Saka kumusoro ikoko kuadmin uko ngavadhitirewo something.
Okay, the cause of our demonstrations is the exorbitant fee hikes that were imposed on us by the University of Zimbabwe. If we look, we know Naguti, 3/4 of the nation is living in poverty. We cannot afford these fees. Our parents are earning peanuts. They are earning less than 100,000 per month, yet the fees being demanded by the University of Zimbabwe are likely to be 300,000, 500,000. So we had to take action to make sure that the administration respond and know that we are not happy with the fees that and we are going to act until they respond fees.
Okay, our demonstration is best, or we're advocating for the reduction of fees. There's been a fees like at the institution that cannot be afforded by our parents. We are sons and daughters of peasants, we are sons and daughters of civil servants, as well as street hustlers, so we can't afford the amount.
The astronomical fees hike, which has been staged by the admin and the Parliament of Zimbabwe.
Chikonzero chatiunza panapa ndechekuti University of Zimbabwe iri kukwidza mafees nemapercentages asiri kutoita. Tikatarisa fees yatanga tichibhadhara, ini ndaibhadhara 51,000 but yapinda mu 300,000. Ndo chinhu chisingatombogamuchiriki. Vabereki vedu mari dzavari kuwana kumabasa avo nemari yavari kunzi vabhadhare hazvisi kutomboenderana.
The new school fees that was presented to us is range. The lowest is 300,000 K, 300,000 RTGS. That's the lowest. Then the highest it's 900 something. It depends on the FAQ out. But the lowest is 300,000. Then roughly when converted to US dollars, it's around 400. That's the lowest. Minimum fees 400 and so on.
The cause of our demonstration is there is hikes, fees aitwa. institution University of Zimbabwe, which is a governmental institution. And as a government, there are rights the government card, which is one of the rights, which is a right to education, and not just education but affordable education. And yet here is a governmental institution, and they're hiking fees, which are fees in such a way that it's not affordable by the general majority.
After all, ipapa bva vakwidza fees ka vana kana kumboinforma vanhu vangobva vangokwidza ipapo apa maparents haasi kuzviziva.
Vaika in such a way like says not like tingateme tichiti a brainchild idea yekuti zvinhu zvinongotaurwa pasina kana concern yegeneral populace.
Yes, to some extent, we all know that from the government, they do give a certain percentage for the day-to-day running of the institution. Yes, the institution will continue to run. What is needed is for the administration to quench that deficit between the running of the institution. How? By approaching the government in adding some amounts of money that can close the gap for students to pay affordable tuition.
We want to pay the fees, but now to consider the current situation, our parents are also afford the yeah, we want to pay, but it should be reasonable. It depends on the parents. A great margin.
No, one way or the other, we are not trying to run away from paying our school fees, but we are saying that there should be an increment that is reasonable. An increment that makes sense. You know, we have to be cognizant of the prevailing economic situation in the country, then everything. But then from there, we gazette a fee that is normal, that makes sense, that is affordable to most parents, you know. Like, for example, my parents, they are based in where they're in the area, they are farmers. And then what they earn, both of them, my father and my mother, what they earn, the proceeds from their farming activities is not even half of the fees that I'm supposed to pay. Yeah.
Well, the government should step in and assist. They're there to help us. You know, since 2018, they've been promising us free education. We haven't seen any of that. You know, ever since, I don't know, we've been waiting for them to help us, but nothing has changed so far. And we hope that they step in this current situation because, you know, students are not going to learn properly. It's stress after stress in this current situation.
Who should pay? Our government should pay for us because this is tertiary, this is a government school. We are not on a private school, it's not AU. Takatoya panapa kwistakaona ndipo patino afford. Manchi kana vakutudza zvima 450 and schools zoti vauda kuti bhadharwe nani. Because on a serious note, our parents, they don't even afford this. They can't afford this.
Okay, we want to pay our fees, our tuition fees, but it is too much. It is too much. I think the government must provide a subsidy and gazette a reasonable school fee.
Constitution inoti we have to have free education and free and affordable education. So this is a state university. The state has to pay 3/4 of our fees. The state has to pay for that fees. And this also we have to pay affordable fees. That means that kana tisikwanisa badra 300 yoyo, state ngeishe badra 250, isto badra 50,000 and chingo badara. Because my parents eda vari ku badara, avasika badara marishino, vari kuapa nzungu, avasikwanisa kutenga chikafu, like andizindega mwana kumba kwenda kwenda chikoro. We have siblings, they are still going to school. Those fees they need to be paid. So
Tikasa badara, I think from 2018 we have been promised free education. So I think the government has to do something pertaining that issue.
The state should pay 3/4 of our education according to the section 75 of the Constitution. We should pay affordable prices of education. Why? Because we were promised free education since 2018. Now it's 2022 and you are heading for 2023 elections and there is still the campaigning process of free and basic funded state education. Where is the education? Where is the free education?
We are not saying that we shouldn't pay for the education, but we are saying the education must be affordable and accessible for all and everyone. That's what we are saying. If they take exorbitant fees, which our parents cannot earn, which our parents the wages, which our parents' wages cannot meet, then it's not justifiable.
I think the government should pay for of course, because if the reason why we are failing to pay our education is because if we look at the poverty data line, nema raise rawakaita fees in Zimbabwe, it doesn't correlate. So we are looking at ma allowances are going to you see. So that's why true fail kudi kungeti badra fees. Saka we are very assured that government ndo inofana also badra ma fees kana suta fail kudi badra fees.
After all, say it's a government institution and it is so my prices are school fees, they should be affordable.
Not just that, for example, Isuzu 333, there's a Form 6 guy who follows me. Is at a boarding. Then pana look at how they are hiking fee. Then also tinoda kudya. Then also tinema expenses like tinenge chief badara zinwa, tino badara magetsi, and as well as food consumption.
Yes, it has to remain the same because these lecturers, if I'm not mistaken, they're paid by the university and the government as well. So it has to remain the same. And you know, this same government they're forcing our parents to pay tax. This tax we have to see its use, you see. So I think some of the tax should be directed towards these lecturers. You know, the institute should not be only paying the lecturers. Also, the government has to assist as well.
I think so. I think it will remain the same because quality of education and fees as far as I'm concerned, this is a government school. Obvious inema sponsors. Saka our quality of education will be the same. Even so at least it should be around 200,000. It's reasonable.
Yeah, I think the quality will remain the same. But now problem yapo ndiye kuti increase our quality yacho ye education. Yes, tinoda kuti raise, but it should be student centered. Students should be included in the decision making and they should be also consulted kuti pawe nation ma reasonable prices.
No, the quality of the education is not going to change. Actually, because one way or the other, even increasing the fees it's not going to automatically mean that quality of education is going to change. But you know, this has just been a decision that isn't taken one-sided, not being cognizant of the student body, not being cognizant of the parents, not being cognizant even of the students representing council. The administration just decided on their own that they have to hike the fees. And what type of increment is that? From 51,000 to 307. Is it an increment? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I do really think so. Why? Because the quality of education that we have been receiving is 10% from the lecturer and 90% we are researching on our own. We have been facing Wi-Fi problems right here and we can still conquer with their sentiments. So the reduction of fees has got nothing to do with lecture conduct.
That's not our problem. This is the misgovernance of the current government which is on. So the government should put in policies which are sustainable because the inflation which is on is not our fault, it's the government's fault. So before they take in or take on above the fees which is above civil servants' wages, which is above anyone's wage, they should make sure that the service delivery is well for everyone and the quality of living for the civilians and students is well made before they do so. So if they want to maintain the quality of education, they should know that they should raise up the wages of the workers and our parents so that we can be able to pay the fees.
Yes, the quality is supposed to remain the same because the government is supposed or must help the institution in some other areas, like the provision of chikafu chinodiwa institution. Government is obliged to ichiunza chimwe chikafu. Government in a funding inofana ngechita pa governmental institution. It's not just a word to be announced like a governmental institution. It has got something to do with my helpings anenga achitwa.
Okay, as of late, it's no longer a secret. The system is failing. What is the system? The ruling party is the one which is failing. So we appeal to them as the government to see the plea or to hear the plea from the students that the students are not happy. We don't know whatever way they can assist to reduce or to quench this amount of fees that is being imposed to the student at large.
So far what I can say, the problem in the equity, they are not considering the current situation, and also us who consider ukuthi mari itino kwanza kuipeya we. Yeah, and I cannot blame anyone directly, but this institution should put in their mind should be student-centered. This should also consider my students, they want a good life, and also their parents are suffering because of what? For them to earn a good education.
It's definitely the government. They approved this increase. They actually signed off this, and I think they should reconsider their decision because it's unreasonable, to be honest.
Definitely, I would say the government. I think they've neglected us. We feel like we've been let down as students.
Truly speaking, with politicizing this situation, it's all because of ZANU-PF. Why? Because they are advocating for their what you call personal perceptions rather than the institution as a whole, rather than the national as a whole.
The government, ZANU-PF, is the one which is responsible for all this.
Inangu handimbotendereri government ndo iri kuita kuti titambure cause kana ivo vari vanhu vari kuti vane our best interest at heart, they wouldn't be raising mafees kusvika pakaita so havangakwanisi kuti vanzita sei vatenderane nezvo kana kuri chikoro ndicho chakwidza ivo segovernment sevanhu vari kuramba vachitanzi they have the best interest at heart yemayouths havangambotenderani nezvinhu zvakaita so saka I blame the government, our government.
Zvese hazvitomborina kana order zvavari kuita the way yavari kukwidza mafees achona and everything. Government ndio itori neproblem.
Irresponsible kunge ichikwidza mafees according to me is an autocratic, tyrannic and as well an incompetent government of Zimbabwe, which is being led by the ZANU-PF governance.
Alright, as of late as the SRC, we have been going around engaging with students, trying them to sign in certain petitions. So we're going to approach the parliament over the issue and debate over the issue. If the Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education doesn't listen to us, we're going to file an emergency court case with students against the institution over the issue of fees.
I will see. We are not going to review our plans on that one, but definitely there's going to be some action.
If I'm not mistaken, over 75% of kids cannot afford this current fees. A lot of people are going to drop off and find other alternatives like work or even sit at home, which again doesn't make sense considering the current economic situation in Zimbabwe. Jobs are very scarce to find, and if you go and sit, we're just gonna go join those guys who are in the streets, and this will increase social problems such as prostitution, theft, and so many other. And the government should look at this and try as much as possible to assist this current situation.
The alternative, maybe if they give us my payment plans, kuti vabereki vedu vobhadhara maybe $70 per month, cause yese ka1 handidi kunyeperai, vamwe vedu vanotodifeya hazviite. Saka the alternative inenge yatoo nyaya yema-payment plans, topeya bit by bit kusvika yapera.
Obviously some of us we are forced to be school dropouts, then do such evil things like theft, kubachichi, anything. You can be forced to do anything.
Okay, as of now, we are calling for all the students. Starting from tomorrow, there are no lectures as of tomorrow. There will be lectures as soon as the administration report to us, telling us kuti mafees adzika. Failing to do so, we are calling kuti chikoro chombotombofarwa for at least 3 to 4 days until they listen to us as students.
We are not looking for any alternative. Our plan is that fees must just fall.
If the fees don't fall, we are not going to attend any lecture. If the fees don't fall, we are going to politicize the situation, taking the situation into the nation. Why? Because the parliament is the one which is responsible for the fees hikes, which is responsible for advocating for the good of the citizens.
We are not going to raise until they meet up our demands. This is our right, is Section 75 states that we have got right to education. So which is right to education. And above all, they speak and talk of Vision 2030. In Vision 2030, there is SDG number 4. Are they going to meet SDG number 4? If they're going to take, because SDG number 4 says quality, accessible, affordable for everyone and anyone. We need to access, we need to afford. If you cannot afford, then there's no vision 2030. They're just talking trash to people.
If the fees doesn't fall, we just continue staying at home because it's of no use to continue coming to school whilst our parents cannot afford the fees that they are telling us to pay.
As for us, if the fees are not if the fees are not sent down, are not shut down, we are not going to rest. We are going to unleash the instrument of democracy as pertained by our constitution.
Now in studio this evening, I am joined by Alan Poi, who is the Students' Representative Union President of the University of Zimbabwe and his main Secretary General. And we're going to be discussing the issue that has brought lectures at standstill, that has closed down or shut down effectively learning at the University of Zimbabwe. Now, thank you very much, Alan. And can you just give our viewers a brief overview of what exactly is happening at the University of Zimbabwe?
Well, thank you, Blessed, for having us in the studio. The one problem that we are facing at the institution of Zimbabwe is of an administration that doesn't think or feels on behalf of its students. You know, we have the Student Representative Council that leads the students, and it's not, you know, a privilege that has been given to us by the administration to be student leaders, but it is actually a mandate that has been placed in us by the students through elections. We have been voted for by the students to represent them. So in as much as we represent the students, it is now very clear, and I would like to make it clear without any iota of ambiguities or equivocation, that the administration doesn't do consultations with the student leaders in terms of whatever the decisions that they would wish to make on behalf of the students. This is the challenge that we are now having in terms of the fees hike that have been recently announced by the deputy, by the acting registrar, who also happens to be the dean of the students, Dr. Munyarazi Madambi, when he just increased the fees from the moon by over 500-700% without the consultation of the students. Recently, as you know, last semester we've been paying tuition fee that was ranging from 50,000 to 60,000. But just from Norway, with the administration just thinking that it is actually their right to just increase the fees without the consultation of the students. They just increased the fees starting from the range of 300,000 RTGS, 500,000 RTGS, 911,000 RTGS, and to those who are doing masters, some are even paying 1.2 million per semester. This is the challenge that we are now faced with at the University of Zimbabwe.
Amazing. Now, Secretary General, before I start, you know, quizzing these issues that you are raising, what is the state of learning right now at the University of Zimbabwe?
Okay, thank you very much, Dara. The state of learning at the University of Zimbabwe is like, as SRC, together with my president, we had a survey at the university when we were making students sign the petition that we submitted yesterday to the parliament. We realized that more than 70% of the students, they are coming from family of mid or lower income earning. So with these astronomical and exorbitant fees that are being charged at the university, it's going to be hard for students to attend lectures. It's going to be hard for students to pay this fee, because we have to understand the state of the nation. Before we talk of the state of the institution is incumbent in the nation. So we go back to the nation. We say, are our parents able to pay this? Definitely not. Look at the poverty data line. More than 50% of the people in Zimbabwe, they are living far below it. So how on earth can you expect civil servants, Zimbabweans, to pay 1.2 2 million per semester. So right now, we are at the verge of having students deferring. More than 20 or so % who defer, because these are astronomical fees, and definitely a mere Zimbabwean. Even someone in parliament, those who are taking from the state coffers, even if you talk to some in the office of the president who work there, they will tell you, no, this is not right. If you go to the police, they will tell you, no, this is not right.
But the police are the ones who have been beating you and stopping you from protesting, aren't they?
They are the ones. So what happens with the police? Sometimes when we go to Central, when we go to Avondale, you get to meet some of policemen who are not in the system, but they are being forced by their bosses to do this and that. So they will tell you, some of them will be giving us tips. No, right now don't go to this place. They are coming after you and so forth. So everyone understands this. But the bosses, those who are on top, on high echelons of power, what they want is training the students, peace, looting and so forth. They're in support of the system because they say you can't bite a hand that feeds you.
Mm-hmm. Now, SRC President, you speak about fees just being increased from Norway, but is it factual that someone would just sit and increase fees from Norway, or they are charging these fees based on what they believe would be sustainable to be able to deliver quality education to you?
My brother, if we are to talk about the costs that the institution is currently facing, you would probably realize that some of the resources that we use at the University of Zimbabwe are what we call in business sunk cost. These are the costs that has been already incurred. We talk of libraries. We do have desktops that has been already purchased. And these are the same desktops that we are using as the students. We talk of our lecturers. They are not paid out of the University of Zimbabwe coffers. They are paid by the government, which costs, our basis of argument should not be in terms of quality education, because quality of education, really speaking, doesn't emanate from how much a student is paying at an institution that is under the government of Zimbabwe. Unless otherwise, if you are talking about a private institution like Africa University. In Zimbabwe, if I am to take you through the list, as a matter of fact, you'd realize that in 2022, this year, the Treasury extended an amount of 4.3 billion to the University of Zimbabwe. And it went on through the supplementary budget to extend another amount of $3.2 billion. And those are some of the monies that we talk about whenever we have to discuss issues to do with the cost, direct cost, in fact, that the institution faces. Why can't you use that money to cater for all those costs associated with paying your ancillary staffs? Because in as much as we know that lecturers are paid by the government, we should also not bury our common sense and rationality to the extent that we forget the fact that we also have ancillary staffs that works in the university, and those ancillary staffs should be paid. So if there are grants that are being extended to the institution by the government, what is the use of those grants? We are talking of an university that have been there for a period of 4 years now. We know what happens at the University of Zimbabwe. They are busy squashing and squandering the monies of the students through silly and petty issues. If I'm to take you through the list, you'll probably realize that just this Friday, I also made this clear yesterday when we had a press conference. Just this Friday, they were busy sponsoring. Of course, we understand that there is corporate responsibility that we should be also talking about in terms of whatever the business environments that we have in our country. But sometimes the rationality should not limit us to the fact of having a scrutiny of events that are actually taking place at our institution. You realize that the institution sponsored a lot of money. They printed a lot of t-shirts, a lot of caps, buses to ferry people for an event that took place in Seke, at Seke Teachers College, for an event for the First Lady, Maimunangagwa. These are some of the costs that can be reduced by the institution rather than overcharging the students, rather than making profits out of the out of the students. We are the sons of the peasant farmers. We are the sons of a civil servant who is actually getting less than 100,000 RTGS from the government. We are talking of someone who is a student with guidance or parents who are not even employed. The unemployment rate of our nation is skyrocketing. So these are some of the factors that we should always consider when we are making these decisions. It's, you know, the position that has been taken by the institution is very clear enough to just come out with a conclusion that, you know, only the sons and the daughters of the politicians who are actually stealing from the coffers of the government are the only ones who are able to afford the tuition fee that has been pegged by the administration.
But look, you have buses, you go for sports, you know, you fund a lot of other purchases of for experiments and stuff like that. You know, who do you want to pay for that expense?
Let me tell you this. Lucky enough, as the SRC, we do have a minister or a secretary general who is responsible for the portfolio of sports and recreation. If I'm to tell you, by the time we get into office on 1 July this year, we do have a series of events pertaining to that portfolio that has been taking place around the country. But if I'm to tell you today, we didn't even attend 50% of all those events. Why? Because the university just come to and tell you that we don't have money to sponsor that.
So now they are charging you so that they have that money. Is it not fair?
That's not it. We have been already being charged the sports fee. What is that money being used for? These are some of the discussions that we should be now talking about. We are the student leaders. It's high time that the institution has to invite us for talks so that we consult one another in terms of actually taking us through the list of understanding the nature of the cost that the institution faces, and also, you know, a series of revenues that the institution gets, not only from the government and from all other projects that it embarks in. So these are some of the things that we should be talking about. We don't just have to say, in as much as they have been charging us sporting fee, which is not sufficing to cater for all this sporting activities that we have at campus. Why can't they just invite us so that we can have talks? See, we have been collecting this much from the sporting fraction of your fees. So we have been failing to cater for all the sporting activities simply because we have been failing to get to this amount. So if we get now to this amount, we'll be able now to let you go to all the sporting activities that we are having in the country. This is the simple discussion that we want, so that we can also actually understand the position, the financial position, in fact, rather, of the institution, so that we'll be able to go back now to the students and tell them, you know, if there is no communication that is being made, you don't have to blame anyone for whatever that happens, because in as much as whatever that, you know, the provision of the law under section 57 is very clear. 75, in fact, is very clear that education should, in fact, the government, the state should make education affordable and accessible. So in as much as it will leave us with a lot of questions, because the way in which the fees is hiked at the University of Zimbabwe is the executive of the institution sits down and they propose the fees, and then they will send the proposal to the minister, who also happens to be Professor Murugira. And the minister, if he is satisfied, he then approves the fees. So by us having the proposed fees being announced out by the administration, it is clear that the minister has actually approved those fees. So to us, it will leave us, we are now going towards the national election. It will leave us with a lot of questions that are not being answered as to if the minister is trying to sabotage the sitting president, because all the students that are in the institution votes and they are registering to vote. So in as much as they see as if the government is not doing enough in terms of making education accessible, it will then, produce negative repercussions to the standing of the government, the administration that we are having, to the extent that students will never vote for the government that is there. So it is a clear sign that The Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, Professor Amon Murugira, is sabotaging President Emmerson Mnangagwa.
Now, I want to come to you before we move on to a fresh point. Don't you realize, or haven't you seen that things are going up? Prices are going up. Are you not seeing it?
We are. We are seeing it, but our point is, if the prices are going up, so where do you want our parents to get the money to pay 1.2 million? For instance, I'm from the Faculty of Science. I pay around 500,000. Then I'm on campus accommodation. I have to pay 616 years accommodation. And I also have my younger brother who is Form 3. He needs about 250 USD per term. I also have a sister who is at Harare Poly. I don't know what she's paying, but you see all these costs. We don't just live for the present, we also live for the future. Our parents want to invest, want to do this and that. Where can we get that money? So our message is clear. I've been talking to Mr. Madambe, the Deputy Registrar, saying to them, what we'll do to you is to put pressure on you. You go to the Chancellor, who happens to be the President of Zimbabwe, and tell him that, where do you want our students to get money? While you are giving our parents peanuts, you want the same parents to pay more than what you're giving them. That's nonsensical, total madness.
So what would happen if the fees don't fall?
Our message is clear. If fees doesn't fall, something is going to fall. We don't know what is that thing, but something is going to fall. But we are very optimistic that with the pressure that we are putting, with the means that we are trying to use to maneuver around all these things, definitely fees will fall. But if push comes to shove, we are going to shut down USAID, because either ways, you're sabotaging, you're jeopardizing not the future of an individual, but the future of the nation. Because they say education creates the future, and health protects it. So if our health sector is moribund, our education is not affordable, where are we going as a nation? Ourselves as individuals, we're at stake. Our nation is at stake. Our nation is doomed.
What is the worst that can happen to students if, say, fees remain like that? What is the worst that can happen?
Most of the students are definitely going to defer. Most of the students.
I requested that you guys also bring the girl child in all this. What happened? Is this SRC just male dominated?
Yeah, one problem that we have at the institution is the situation is actually different from the situation that we have at national level. They vote on a meritocracy basis. They don't just vote people, just like the system that we have in Zimbabwean parliament, whereby there is proportional representative of women who doesn't even deliver anything on the table. So we go to the elections, we just contest with female candidates, they just lose the election. Not that there are no female students that can deliver, but on the basis that, there is this apathy in terms of contestation through a series of conundrums that we face along the way while we are campaigning. These are some of the challenges that has actually made our SRC to be male dominated.
But what effect will this have on the girl child? So for instance, they do not defer, then they try and push through. How affected are they?
Well, maybe before I answer that, as the SRC, we also really understand, the plights and the perils that comes through just having something like, a male forum as the SRC. So we are also doing the best that we could to push for constitutional amendment so that we can have a specific post in the SRC that can only be contested by female candidates, so that they can also get a representation from other female leaders that are in the SRC. This is number one. So if we have an SRC that is male dominated, you'd probably realize that in as much, of course, there is, you know, a misconstruing of the fact that people just tend up to believe that whenever we talk about gender, we are talking about females. But to our own rationality as human beings, you know, as potential intellects of this country, it's high time that, you know, a gender portfolio that is there in the SRC should be only contested by female students so that they can, you know, propel issues to do with gender and female representation. So this is one of the things that we are considering as the SRC. Why? Because we are also realizing that as we are leading the students, there are also certain sensitive issues that arises in the female fraternity of our institution that also requires female representations. So in as much as we don't have female representation, it therefore means that the demands of the female students are going to be menaced and jeopardized as well.
Yeah, but my question, which you didn't answer because you are slowly becoming a politician, but anyhow, was what effect will it have? How hard will the girl child be hit by these high fees if they don't fall?
Well, I think if you are to check on Zim Celebs, you'd get a video, in fact, of a girl who was part of the protest that occurred on Monday, who was shouting out that our parents are civil servants, they are peasants, farmers, they are earning nothing. So do you think we will now be able to pay for our tuition fee? No, we can't pay for that. What we are only left with as one option is just prostitution. So whenever you get something like those sentiments, it will now take you through the list of trying to understand the situation that you are facing as an institution. A situation that will lead, you know, our other gender to just go around and start to do things so that they can just get money, so that they will be able to pay the tuition fees that have been hiked irrationally, illegally by the institution.
SG, what is it that you know? I saw this statement that was signed by the SRC Vice President, SRC legal and admin, and saying that there are talks. But when you are talking to me, you don't seem to allude to the point that there are any talks.
Okay, so the problem with our administration is that they take us for fun, they take us for granted. You might be shocked that the Pro-Vice Chancellor doesn't even know what SRC stands for. We're in the meeting and Dr. Madambe said, we have the SRC. She asked, what's SRC? So you see the level of ignorance. They don't even consider us. If we go on table, having discussions, I told them that for us to have an honest discussion, number one, we should all agree that we have a say, because what they are trying to do is to inculcate a practice of docility in us, that we say this, you agree, you say this, you agree. So when we are doing negotiations, what they will be trying to do is to manage us. What they will be trying to do is to use us to go and say to the students, no, this is reasonable. The fee is reasonable because of this and this. They don't want to even hear our input. We said fees must fall, but did we say by how much? What if it's 0.01%? They don't even want to listen to us. So our plea is, we went to the meeting, me and the president, we told them, for us to continue the meeting, number one, we should agree that we are the biggest stakeholders at this university. For Professor Paul Mapfumo to be a Vice Chancellor, it's because of the students. For that place to be called University of Zimbabwe, it's because of the students. So if you undermine the power that we have, if you undermine our constituents, there are no talks to talk about. Right now, more than 20 students have been incarcerated. What is the administration doing? They don't even care about it. So for there to be negotiations, there should be mutual respect. You respect me, I respect you. You are willing to hear what I'm saying, and I am willing to hear what you're saying. They say it takes two to tango.
But then that statement, speak to that statement. You SRC signed that statement, right?
What happens with with the SRC is, in SRC we have Zinaso, which is a students' union for the students, and we have, I don't know if it's a union called Zikoso. I don't know if it's a union, but I think
it's a hired affiliate of ZANU-PF.
You see,
to distract the cause
they're
of
just
students'
there
warfare.
to say what we say is not right. Even if we say the sky is blue, they say no. They're adamant to facts because they'll be supporting the government. They'll be supporting ZANU-PF in particular. So the situation that we are seeing now is the SRC is now polarized, deeply divided. From Zikoso, from ZANU-PF to be more comprehensive, they'll be saying no, the fees is okay, but we understand the struggles. We understand what the students are facing.
But you're also CCC, aren't you?
As an individual, not as a
I'm
union.
CCC, not as SRC or whatsoever. And I'm always clear. I always tell people that what we believe in is not a party. What we believe in is not an individual, be it ED, be it Nelson Chamisa. We believe in a vision. We are close to progress. We are close to rule of law. We are close to seeing our country developing, having what we admire. We are close to seeing our country having the best education, because education definitely creates the future. So it's not like we're in support of a certain party, but we're in support of a certain idea that we believe that it can move our country forward and realize the African dream, to see not just Zimbabwe, to see Africa having great leaders, to see Africa being on the world stage, calling shots. No, you should not do this and this, because we are being used as pawns in the bigger game. So that's what we believe in. That's why they might deem us like we are against a certain political party, but we are against an idea that we feel, no, we cannot go on like this.
Now, I mean, as we close, comrades, let's just briefly speak about the arrested comrades. What is their state right now? How they are feeling?
As you know, the first day of lodging the queries by the student fraternity in the institution was Monday. When I'm here to speak the voice of the students. I'm not just here to speak my voice. On Monday, students just mobilize themselves without even the intervention of the SRC. Why? Because they are the ones that are actually feeling the heat of the fees hikes. After they organized the demo, police just came. They never interrupted during the demo. But after the demo, they just started roaming around campus, picking students just from Norway without, clear evidence to say you were on the demonstrations. If they wanted to just arrest a student, they would have arrested them while they were demonstrating. So you'd probably realize that most of the students out of the 14 students that have been arrested on Monday were not even part of the demonstrations. We're just students who were walking around campus.
But where did they pay fine?
The problem that we are having is we are having a situation or an atmosphere whereby we are creating unconscious students who doesn't know what the law says. The reason why 12 of the students out of the 14th paid fine was a result of them not wanting to sleep in cells again yesterday. They slept in police cells under detention at Avondale police station on Monday. So they just felt it painful, for them again to perpetuously sleep in the police cells yesterday. So to the extent that when they got the news that they now have an option of admitting that they are guilty and then pay a fine, They just say, it's okay, just for us to say, I'm admitting, even if I never did anything, let me just admit, let the fine be paid, and then we just go back to school and learn together with others. Only 2 conscious students who knows their rights, who knows their position, didn't to pay fine. And you know, it was fun. I was at Avondale police station yesterday. An environment that the police officers were trying to create was tense to the extent that they were even coercing students. You don't want to pay fine. Just to see what will happen. Just to see. They never had any charge during the time. You know, when you are arrested, you must be told of the charge you are under which you are being arrested for. But they never had the charge till yesterday in the afternoon. You know, only to just say in the evening when we tried to visit them, they are now being charged with disorderly conduct, and you know, disorderly conduct is not that crime which we can call it is big. If it is a crime, it's a crime. You know, they were just, so we are now just opting to have them pay fines. You know, I did the best that you could to see how best they can be assisted, but again, in as much as we tried to assist them, we also wanted to create an environment whereby they actually know that whatever that they are doing, it is coming out not as a result of them admitting, but as a result of them being in the environment where there is a fear of the unknown. So this is what actually led to the call for the students to pay fine. But those who are, you know, even at court, there was no issue in terms of granting them bail free of charge, you know, because there is no crime that has been committed. Section 59 of the Constitution is very clear in terms of giving students, citizens, the right to petition and to demonstrate. So this is something that we should be worried about. Of course, there is procedure that has to be taken, but in as much as we are in an environment that is also its own regulations, I don't see it was that much, important for just the administration to decide to take the students to the police. Why? Because we also have our own rules and regulation at the campus, which they were supposed to use on the same. They are just students. They are not criminals. We do have a lot of people that are being, funny part of it, we've been having a lot, I can even call them by names. Justice Mayor Wajajena, we had Priscilla Mfumira, we had Obadiah Moyo, we had a lot of people. Chombo, a lot of people, and not just a lot of people, a lot of ZANU-PF and former ZANU-PF top officials. We have been, getting into court without the state opposing to bail, just being granted bail, and without even sleeping in police cells. The situation, that we are facing, the filth, the filth conditions in the police cells, you get worried. You get worried and equally perplexed to the extent that does our government, does our administration thinks? We are just students. What we want and what we are fighting for is just a right to education that is provided for in the Constitution. So we are not fighting a battle for our, for our own grandstanding, but we are fighting a battle for the future of the country. We are fighting a battle for the good of the country. So that's what happened. And again, yesterday the police was also roaming around trying to identify those that they are actually considering to be the ones who organized the demo. But lucky enough, the demonstration was not organized by anyone, was not organized by the SRC, was not organized by the ZINAS, was not again organized by that bunch of Zikos guys. This is a protest, a peaceful one, that has been, organized and coordinated by the students themselves out of the pain that they're actually feeling, out of the fees that has been hiked by the institution.
In your closing remarks, I read a statement that there's been an attempt to politicize this demonstration. I want you to respond to it, but also then, in your response, if you had an opportunity to sit down with President Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa or to see him, what would be your appeal to him?
I think I'll first answer the last one. If I have chance to sit with the president of Zimbabwe, who happens to be Idi Mnangagwa. Our message is clear: either you shape up or ship up. If he doesn't want to change, they say, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We are done with this. From 1980, we were in the government. Now it's 2022. If you don't want to shape up, and I think it's now beyond repair, just shape up and let those with capacity take over. Because we've been there in 1980, we've been there 2000, we've been there 2010, now it's 2022. They are showing us that they don't want to change, and the students, constituents, the youths are now tired of this. What we want now is change. And the other question was?
No, I was saying that I read a statement that said there's been an attempt to politicize this. Yes.
Okay, it's not about politics. Even a layman can tell you that 1.5 million is not good. Even a layman can tell you that 1.5 million, no one can in Zimbabwe afford that. Our parents are civil servants, they are peasant farmers. Some of our parents are hustlers and so forth. How on earth can they manage to raise 1.5 million RTGS per semester? It's completely nonsensical and total madness. So our core is very, very clear. As students, we have started the movement, and they say for the movement to be effective, it should not be owned by the organizers, but by the people. That's why you see right now students are mobilizing themselves. While we are not even on campus, you just get a call from the director of security. There are students demonstrating, there are students doing this. Because students, they understand it's no longer about politics, it's no longer about a certain individual, but it's now about change. Because students are intellectual, they know what is politics, they know what is reality. This is reality. You cannot say an opposition or someone is causing this. We are in a predicament, and as intellectual, we understand what to do. That's why we are taking action. So, my parting shots, I think everyone should now put hands on deck and make sure that we students, what we have started, continue with it. What we want is change. We have our tools. Do something for the students. It takes two to tango. One man in a field is not a warrior. So it's now time that the generation, the young people, must now choose hope over fear. The young people must now choose unity over division. We don't want to hear about the nonsense because we want to hear about the youths who are converging for change. That's what we want in Zimbabwe. Because whether you're from Zikos or you're from Zinas, you understand the status quo of the university. You understand the status quo of the nation. So let us choose the promise of change over the power of status quo and make sure that we turn our indifference into interest, our action, our anger into action, and move forward as united front.
Thank you very much to the leaders of the Zimbabwe, the University of Zimbabwe, SRC, who were with me here this evening discussing the hashtag fees must fall and why they are looking to ensure that fees fall so that they can continue with their education and complete their education and become intellectuals who will, put their hands on the deck to ensure that this country develops, that this country sees a future and a seat among the nation of nations and be leaders. Now, this was the Free Talk. This is the Free Talk. This will always be the Free Talk in partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation here on Heart and Soul TV and radio. Education is the key to success, but they've changed the locks. This is me, your host, Dara B. Mhlanga. Thank you very much. Untold.